aligned. So they seem to be aligned because it's because of the guidelines. So this is ink, but then the guidelines can remain as a very light pencil. Okay, so if you can see it really has an effect. No? Another work, although there are some issues with the inking, like the section here, but this one does not have the guideline, but she managed to keep the um, text clean somehow by Nina Sofia Casquejo. Um, this one is also uh, a clean version, even without the guidelines. What I like about this is the consistency of the style that she used. Okay, so please take note that the height of the letters should be the same all throughout. For example, I saw some work where, for example, here in the coffee dresser, so the 1,100 times 600 is smaller than the coffee dresser when they should be the same. So they should only differ when, for example, the label is on a room. For example, here it's extended kitchen, so the height is bigger than the rest. Okay, but these are like minor notations, so they should be smaller. So consistency in style and consistency in height also. This is the work of Grizel Costanos. I also have here the work of Pauline Malinaw. Um, if you notice, well, the drafting is also very good. If you notice that the text, the dimensions really play a big part in making the whole layout look attractive, no? And presentable. So that's why you should not just hurry up. I saw a lot of work where the the texts are like hurriedly done, okay, and it shows. It shows. So take time. Um, our topic now will be about dimensioning. So here we already have a very good presentation of the dimension, although for now you merely copied. So what if you will start dimensioning from scratch? So you have to know how to do it. Okay. So let's go directly to dimensioning and annotations. So dimension is a numerical value expressed in an appropriate unit of measure. It is indicated on drawings along with lines, arrows, symbols, and notes to define the size and specification of an object. Okay. Well, everything will be explained in the succeeding slides. No? So it's important that drawing should be fully dimensioned so that a minimum of computation is required and all the parts can be built without having to scale the drawings to determine an object size. Especially nowadays when we can easily reproduce drawings by printing from computer, then sending by PDF. So before you have to draw everything in Mylar or tracing paper, and then have it printed in paper by blueprint, and then so it has to be scaled so that if there is a lacking dimension, so the people on site, the engineers, the foreman, the architect, can just get a metric scale and then measure on the spot from the drawing since the scale is indicated, and so they can get the dimension. But right now, when you print, sometimes um, we're very what's this negligent, no? When it comes to scaling, so we sometimes fit the paper to fit the image to the paper, so we don't print it as is. So in the end, the scale is actually compromised, so we cannot do that anymore. Okay, so therefore, it is better if the all the dimensions are there, and then also especially because it takes longer. No, sometimes you need a calculator to sum up all the dimensions, the string of dimensions to get something else which were not dimensioned. Um, and it's so if no calculator is on hand, so it's a big problem. So you'll have to do it manually, and then the possibility of error is there. So duplication of dimension should whenever possible be avoided unless it adds clarity. And we will talk about when it is possible to duplicate dimensions. So why dimension? Well, I actually said it already, but to describe the size, shape, and material of objects, and to give details on how to build an object from a designer to manufacturer. Simply mean, if we want something done according to how we design it, so we give the proper dimension. Otherwise, they might decide on the dimension, it comes out different from what we envision. So as an architect, what we envision should become reality. No, that's one of our sort of powers. That's one of our skills. Now, when we dimension, we have to what we call group and stagger. Okay, dimension should be grouped for uniform appearance. Here in the example, so we put the more detailed dimension closer to the objects, and then the more, let's say the total dimension, like this one, away from the object. Okay, as much as possible, we avoid having all the lines crisscross. Do not use object lines as part of their dimension. So on the right side here, so the dimension line is pointing to the object line instead of extension lines. Okay, so this is not a good practice. This should be avoided unless you really are pressed for space. No, you don't have anywhere else to put your dimension. Dimension should be placed outside the actual part, outline, or object. It should not touch the object. Okay, and then there has to be consistency on the distance from the object to the first dimension. When you're doing CAD, this is not automatic also, so you'll be the one to specify. Dimension should not be placed within the part boundaries unless greater clarity would result. Anyway, so it's staggered dimensioning simply means that using coordinate dimensions with a baseline or datum surface as a starting point. So here, for example, we start from this lower left corner, and then from there, we dimension everything, okay? This is a better way of dimensioning if we want to locate the center points of these three circles. Because if we dimension it continuously, so we end up adding and then probably making mistakes. Okay, here it's faster. Although, if again, you lack space, so you can start combining. But if you have enough space, so you do it this way. So again, the dimensions here are placed inside the object. This is not a good practice, so it should be placed outside. And then these are redundant, okay? What makes this redundant? Because in reality, when we actually manufacture the object, for example, you're going to cut wood to this shape. So, and then you take out part A. Sometimes you cannot control the actual dimension of the part that you cut. Sometimes it goes bigger or a bit smaller. So therefore, this other part here is like variable. But what's important now is that the total is still, say, a dimension B here. Okay. So therefore, it's like this is allowance. So this for possible errors. So you keep it free. So if you have a string of dimensions towards the end, if possible, keep it free. And then here, another, there are also those who actually wanted to put all the dimensions this way. But then if you only have two, so you don't need to give the total dimension. But if you have more, so you can give the total dimensions, okay? But I noticed that in some a lot of examples, they do not follow that rule that in a string of dimension, the last segment should remain blank. So there are two types of dimensions. We call it size dimension and location dimension. Simply speaking, size just gives you the size, the width, the height, the length, but then the location tells you where a point is located in the drawing, especially for center lines. You can review all this text later. I don't like reading too much. No? So the size dimensioning, so what is the diameter, what's the radius, the height, the depth, the width, and then location dimensioning, so where is the center line of this located, at what point do you apply the angle. So these are locations. So in a linear dimension, we have 4 components. We have dimension text, arrowheads, dimension line, and extension line. Okay. For dimension text, so 1 meter is equal to 1,000 millimeters. The unit of measure should be consistent. If you start with meter, so it's meter all throughout, and millimeter, millimeter all throughout. If you start with meter, and then you have trailing decimals, if it's only one, for example, 1.0, if it's only one place, so it should be the same with everything. You cannot have here it's 0.50, but there it's only one, not even 1.0. Or if this is 0.5, this is 1.00. So this is 0.50, 1.00. So there should be consistency. Now, when do you use millimeter? We mentioned that the America still uses English system, so it's inches and feet. But all others, the System International makes use of millimeter, except for a few countries like Japan and probably some British countries. But definitely in Japan, they use millimeters. The reason why they use millimeter is that they're avoiding the use of the decimal point, no? Because when you print out, especially at before, when you cannot really print the plan using our ordinary printer, but only through blueprint. So if you've seen a blueprint, it has a lot of smudges of blue because of the processing. So that point sometimes disappears. So it's very dangerous because if you have a 1.0, people tend to read it as 10. So to avoid the point, so everything is in millimeter. I use millimeter because I find it more accurate, of course. So if the dimension text will not fit between the extension lines, it may be placed outside. So here's an example. So the 1.00 is placed right beside it. There are many ways to place the dimension line, the dimension outside the dimension text outside the dimension line. It can be with a leader, or it can be done this way. Most of the time, dimension text is directly above the dimension line. Unit is placed at outermost dimension. So this one, where you put the M, the unit, in the outermost dimension, is seldom done, but I think it's a good practice to do. For example, if you have layers of dimension here and the outermost, that's where you put a 6.5 meter. But then the rest below it, for example, there's a 2 meter, so there's no M. And it's always put outside or on top of the dimension line. Okay, so never below. So please, never below. No, even if the dimension is right below your drawing, the text is still above the dimension line. Dimension text is placed on the middle of the line, both horizontally and vertically. Now, so it should be, if you have a very long dimension line, so the text should be in the middle so that it's easy to find. You don't hide it towards the left or the right. No, put it in the middle. There are exceptions when the dimension is not really outside the dimension line because, for example, in this case, it's right in between. The dimension line is horizontal, and then your dimension text is, I mean, vertical, and then your dimension text is horizontal. So it's right between. So this is just a one method. So here I mentioned that if the dimension text does not fit within the dimension line, you can use a leader. Okay, so we encountered leader in the last uh, session. So used to connect nodes or to related feature, a thin solid line to indicate the feature with which a dimension node or symbol is associated. So leaders should not cross each other. So you cannot have something pointing here, then something pointing the other way, and then them crossing. Um, no excessively long leaders. Okay. Sometimes, so in the past, when things were done manually, to distinguish a leader from all the other lines, the architect would use a curved leader. So he does that. No? Um, there are those who manage to get away with it, no, making it look very attractive. But otherwise, if you really don't know how to do it, better avoid because it can also make the drawing very cluttered. So no leaders that are parallel to dimension or extension lines. Um, I have example of that later. So no leaders that will make a small angle with the surface to which it refers. Let's see here. Annotation simply means notes, okay? Basically notes, or other types of explanatory objects or symbols that are commonly used to add information to a drawing. For example, here, you wanted to tell the one reading your drawing to look at this edge, okay? So that's a text, that's not a dimension. So it's pointing there. Now, if you're pointing to a particular line, then it should be an arrow. If you're pointing to a surface, then you can use the circle. And then you can have annotations, well, leaders with one annotation, but different leaders like this one. Okay, although you can do this, you can organize it so that it looks better. Arrowheads. So this is how arrowheads look like. You already encountered this in your last exercise. Um, there are many types actually. I will show you some other types that are used by some architects. So arrowhead point directly to the object that is being dimensioned or the extension lines at the end of the dimension. Arrowheads are made 3 times as long as they are wide. So this is more or less the proportion. The proportion. Now, the arrowhead has to touch the object which it is pointing, in the case of leaders, or the extension line, okay, in the case of dimension. So I saw a lot of work, even if you are copying something, still the arrowhead did not touch the extension line, okay? So that's a big mistake. Here it says dot and oblique architectural ticks like this, but this is a better way of showing the different types of arrowheads. So they're not really arrows because they're dots and they're ticks, but then you also see a lot of different types of arrows. You have just lines and of different proportions. And then when I was in first year, I was using only the dots because it's more, it's faster for me when I get a pentel pen and just do that, no? Use the dots. But later I realized that when it comes to architectural drawings already, The dots don't seem to be very attractive, so the arrowhead is better. The dimension ticks, the second one here, is also very popular. Okay, you can get a 0.5, 0.6 pen and then use it um, as ticks for the ticks. So dimension line, it shows the length of the dimension. So here. And then there are many ways of, but the dimension line has to be parallel to the object that it is dimensioning. Okay, so if it's slanted this way, so the dimension line should be slanted in the same angle. If it's vertical, the dimension line should also be vertical. And then the extension line. So there are some things to learn about the extension line. There are a lot of typos here. One is that the extension line has to extend beyond the arrowhead. Okay, it's actually 1/8 inch. You don't really have to measure. Just take note of how much 1/8 inch would mean, and then just do it. And it's important that this is followed and you are consistent, because when you're not consistent, some lines go beyond, so it makes the drawing very dirty. Even if it is actually drawn properly, but the dimensions do not follow, the extension lines do not follow this rule. And also, there should be a gap between the drawing and then the extension line. Okay. A trick that was taught to me before when I was in college, but this time using pencil, because we don't use AutoCAD yet. So, and then we started drafting using pencil. Since you're drawing a thin line, so you have to use a hard pencil. And then, so what you do first is that you point on that, you put the tip of your pencil on top of the where you should start the extension line, and making sure that it is far away from the object, and then you put pressure in it, and then even turn it, before you make the extension line. So that means the start of the line is definite, and then when you end, you also put pressure and then you turn it. So that makes, it's like you're making dots. So a dot and then a line and then a dot. So that makes your line very definite. So you don't just let it like vanish and fade away. So that I was reminded about this, because that's one way of making sure that you really are aware that your start of the line is far from the object. So there are two types of dimensioning, which we actually saw already, but we will discuss here. Unidirectional and aligned. So what do this mean? Unidirectional means that all the texts are oriented one way, all horizontal. So even if the dimension, the object dimension or the line dimension is vertical, but the text is still horizontal. So even if the dimension is angled, the text is still horizontal. The other one is that the text is aligned with the object, or aligned with the dimension line. So you see here a very clear example. So arcs and circles are quite special. So we have to know how to do this properly. Arc and circles are dimensioned in views that show the arcs or the circles. I have graphics for that. Arcs are dimensioned with a leader to identify the radius. In some cases, a center mark is included. Circles should have a center mark and are dimensioned with a leader to identify the diameter. Okay. So here, this is a center mark, a very small cross, And then you have a leader there that tells you the radius of the circle. So R, 2 inches. So the radius is 2 inches. Now, the second drawing shows a center line. The center line extends beyond the object. And then there's the leader. Then you have this symbol. This symbol means diameter. Diameter is 4 inches. Okay, so the radius is 2, the diameter is 4. So here we read it as diameter 4 inches. Or we can put the leader could extend towards the center, and then it tells you the radius. In this case, the radius is 2 mm, 2 millimeter. Or you can do it this way. No? The leader, since you are pointing to the diameter, so there's also an equivalent leader the opposite direction. If you're pressed for space, otherwise this can also be inside, as we shall see later. Angles and radius values are used to locate the centers of radial pattern features, such as the holes in this plate. Okay. How do you locate the center lines here? So you have to get the radius. Okay. So, and then how do you get this part? So you already got this part. How do you get this part? You get the radius also here of the circle. Okay. This is one exercise that you might be making based on just descriptions. So you have to redraw the object. Repetitive feature. Okay. So the symbol X is used to indicate the number of times a feature is to be repeated. So this hole here is the same as the other 3 holes. So rather than dimension each one, you dimension only one, but then you indicate how many times it will be applied. So 4 times dimension 0.375. Okay. So no units. So probably the whole drawing already has the unit. Rounds and fillets. So okay, we indicate it this way. Sometimes we put the center line like this one, but if it is too small, we do away with the center line, or does the center mark with the cross, no? And then put the radius. So here, also this. So these are some ways of indicating the rounds, the radius. So diameter. Okay. It's said earlier that the diameter and the radius should be dimensioned where the circle is shown, where the object is shown as a circle in its true shape. So this is to be avoided because the dimension has to be here. Okay. In cones, of course, you dimension the all of this. Now, I'm confused about this 32 degrees, so we will not discuss it because this one is, I got this slide from the other teachers in a way. Avoid crossing dimensions or extension lines with leader lines. So we mentioned that earlier. So this is an example. You have a dimension line here, and then there's a leader that crossed it. So you try to avoid. You can put it the other side like this one. This is more correct. Okay. The leader lines point towards the center of the feature and should not occur horizontally or vertically. So wrong spelling, horizontally. So as much as possible, use this like an angled arrow or leader line rather than the straight one like this or even this. Sometimes I make use of this, but then I realize it tends to confuse. No? If you really want to separate. I mentioned about some architects using the curved lines. So instead of curved lines, you can use these angled lines. We mentioned that the dimension text should be in the middle of the dimension line. But if the space in between, especially if your style of dimensioning is unidirectional, um, if the space in between is not enough, so the letters or the dimensions would be cramped, no? Like what we have here. So it's also a good practice to stagger them so that you can see clearly the dimension. Anyway, they're still around the area in the middle, in the center. In general, a circle is dimensioned by its diameter and arc by its radius. So if you look at, if you have a circle, so use the diameter as much as possible. Holes should be located and sized in the view that shows the feature as a circle. Okay, so to locate the hole here, you need the center point of the circle. But then it has to be shown in this view where the circle is shown. In this view, the circle is seen sideways. Actually, it's not even a circle because it's a cylindrical hole. So this is wrong. So you put the dimensions in this other drawing is correct. Okay. Holes are located by their center lines, which may be extended and used as extension lines. So I mentioned to you that the center line, the extension goes beyond the object, but you can extend it even further and be part of the extension line for a dimension, especially when you are trying to locate the center point of the circle. So this is what it means. Okay, so that's the last of the slides about dimensioning and annotation. I'll be uploading these slides and also the recording of this session, so you can review it later. Meantime, I'm giving you an exercise, but this one requires that you print the exercises. I hope there's no problem printing. So the exercises come in this way. So print, then dimension the figures. So there are figures here. You have to put the dimension, so you have to measure it. And I said that you have to use millimeter in dimensioning. So depending on how you print it, so some might be bigger if they try to fit it on paper. But it doesn't matter what the dimension really is, the actual dimension. So if you dimension it like 10 millimeter, then you put 10 millimeter. But in another drawing, if it is bigger, it's 12 millimeter, so he puts 12 millimeter. So what matters is how you dimension it. Okay, so how you use the extension lines, the leaders, the arrowheads, and the dimension text. So there will be 3 of these, and then there are instructions here, sort of to help you review, and some are for the arcs and circles. And then the third one is this. Okay, so after you print that and then you draw on it, then you can have it scanned or copied or photographed, and then you send through Google Classroom. Okay, but we will be transitioning to Google to Canvas later on. But maybe our next exercise will be on Canvas. Okay. So very good. That's the last of the slides. I just want to check. Okay, there are no questions. We will not be meeting online on Thursday. So our next meeting will be Tuesday. So therefore, you only need to do your exercise on that day and then submit it, okay, by noon time. So this time I'm going to make it noon time. So I hope there's no problem. If there are questions, you can just drop me a note or send an email or Google Classroom. Okay, so for now, goodbye and good morning. I'll just